Not free as in rescued. Free as in abandoned. Free as in nobody wanted her anymore. Cole Ashby almost walked past her. That was the part he hated remembering later. The bazaar on Kalen's Reach was loud, dirty, and hot enough to make the air shimmer above the packed dirt lanes. Twin suns pressed down on the market like a weight. Engines coughed smoke from docking bays. Vendors shouted in half a dozen languages. Something sweet burned on a food grill nearby, mixing with the smell of oil, dust, sweat, and old metal. Cole had one job that morning. Find a Series 7 coolant regulator. Fix the driftwood. Get off Kalen's Reach before his cargo contract expired. Simple. But nothing on Kalen's Reach was ever simple. He was 34 years old and already carried himself like a man 10 years older. Not because of age. Because of mileage. Too many ports. Too many bad deals. Too many nights sleeping in a pilot chair because trusting station lodging had nearly gotten him robbed twice. His ship, the Driftwood, waited in Bay 14 with a cracked intake manifold and a list of problems Cole had been pretending were temporary for nearly 6 months. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't even sure he was a good man anymore. He was a hauler. A man with a ship, a debt history, and exactly enough credits to buy the part he needed if nobody cheated him too badly. Then he saw her. At first, she looked like part of the junk. A thin figure sitting near a metal post where the market thinned into gravel. Her knees were pulled to her chest. Her head was bowed. White hair hung in filthy tangles over her face. Her skin was silver blue beneath the grime, bruised in places, too thin across the bones. The chain around her wrist was industrial grade, not a restraint made for a person. A cargo chain, the kind used to secure freight during atmospheric entry. It ran from a cuff on her left wrist to a bolt sunk deep into the post, giving her maybe 4 feet of movement. Not enough to reach shade. Not enough to reach the nearest water stall. Not enough to matter. The sign was wired to the chain with scrap metal. Free. People walked around her like she was a broken crate. A Torvathi. Merchant rolled a cargo sled within a foot of her bare legs and never slowed down. 2 cash-in traders glanced over, calculated quickly, and kept moving. A child pointed once before his mother pulled his hand down and whispered something Cole couldn't hear. Nobody stopped. Nobody even looked surprised. That bothered Cole more than the chain. She had been there long enough to become scenery. Cole looked north toward the parts stalls. The regulator was close. His ship needed it. His contract mattered. His credits were limited. He kept walking. 10 steps. 15. Then he stopped. It wasn't pity. He had seen worse things in worse ports and learned how to keep moving. It wasn't heroism either. The universe had burned most of that out of him years ago. It was the way she sat. Not crying. Not begging. Not calling out. Just still. Like she had already accepted the answer. Nobody was coming. Cole turned around. He walked back and crouched in front of her, leaving space between them. Close enough to speak. Far enough not to corner her. She flinched before he said a word. Both arms snapped up to protect her head and throat. Fast. Practiced. Mechanical. Cole froze. He had seen that kind of movement before. Not fear of something that might happen. Memory of something that had happened too many times. So he stayed still. The market noise rolled around them. Slowly, one arm lowered. Then the other. Her eyes found his through the curtain of dirty white hair. Pale violet. Almost gray. Exhausted past panic. Cole reached for his canteen. Her whole body went rigid. He moved slowly, unscrewed the cap, and set the canteen on the dirt between them. He didn't push it toward her. Didn't tell her to drink. Didn't make it a command. He just placed it there and rested his hands where she could see them. For a long time, she stared at the canteen. Then at him. Then back at the canteen. Her hand emerged slowly. The chain clinked as she reached. She picked it up and took one tiny sip. Then another. Then longer ones. Water ran down her chin, and she caught it with her free hand, pressing it to her mouth like she was afraid to waste even a drop. Cole looked at the chain. Then he reached into his pack and pulled out the bolt cutter he used for jammed cargo locks. The fear returned instantly. Her eyes widened. Her shoulders curled inward. But Cole didn't touch her. He fitted the jaws around the chain link nearest the cuff. The metal resisted, then snapped with a sound like a gunshot. The chain fell into the dirt. She didn't move. She stared at her wrist as if she expected the weight to return. "You can go," Cole said quietly. "Anywhere you want." Her mouth opened. The sound that came out was rough, almost unused. "Go where?" Cole had no answer. That question landed harder than anything else. He had planned as far as cutting the chain. He had not planned for what freedom meant when someone had nowhere to take it. He stood, shouldered his pack, and turned toward the parts stalls. He told himself he had done enough. Water. Chain cut. More than anyone else had done. 20 paces later, he knew she was following. Not beside him. Behind him. Far enough to run if he turned dangerous. Close enough that she had not chosen to disappear. She moved silently through the crowd, a thin silver-blue shadow testing whether kindness always came with a trap. Cole reached the parts vendor and leaned on the counter. The cash-in behind it wore 2 mini rings and the smile of a man who had overcharged travelers for decades. Coolant regulator, Cole said. Series 7 compatible. The vendor produced one instantly. Genuine manufacturer spec. 1,200 credits. 800, Cole said. The vendor sighed theatrically. You wound me. Cole picked up the regulator, checking the stamp. Before he could argue further, a quiet voice spoke behind him. That's not Series 7. Cole turned. The woman stood 5 feet back, arms wrapped around herself, eyes lowered. Her voice was still rough, but precise. The housing is Series 4. The stamp was re-etched. The intake weld is 3 millimeters too wide. It will pass visual inspection, but the thermal tolerance is wrong. Install that in a Terran cargo frame, and it fails under pressure within 40 hours. Silence. The vendor's expression confirmed every word. Cole looked at the part in his hand, then at her, then back at the vendor. 600, Cole said, for the real one under the counter. The sale took less than a minute. When Cole turned, the woman was still there. Bare feet dusty, shoulders tight, waiting for punishment that did not come. You got a name? He asked. She hesitated so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, softly, Thessaly. Cole Ashby, he said. My ship's in Bay 14. Apparently, it has more problems than I know about. I could use a second opinion. He didn't say rescue. Didn't say charity. He offered work. One professional to another. And for the first time, something faint moved behind her eyes. Not trust. Not yet. But maybe the memory of being useful. The driftwood was ugly, old, patched from a dozen repair jobs, and the only thing in Cole's life that was fully his. Thessaly stood in the cargo bay and studied it like she was reading a map. Her eyes followed conduits, power lines, junction boxes, pressure valves. She understood systems the way other people understood faces. But she did not touch anything. Her hands stayed at her sides. Waiting. Cole noticed. In the galley, he heated a ration pack and set it in front of her with clean water. She reached for it with both hands, then stopped herself. Slowed down. Took a careful bite. Chewed. Set it down. Took another. Cole pretended to read his datapad. He let her eat at whatever speed felt safe. Later, he showed her the spare bunk. Narrow cot. Foam pad. Small locker. Nothing special. He pulled out a gray thermal blanket and handed it to her. Standard issue. She stared at it, then took the edge between 2 fingers, like she was waiting for him to explain the price. When he didn't, her fingers tightened around the fabric. She held it against her chest. Get some rest, Cole said. We'll figure out the next step in the morning. 3 hours later, he found her in the engine room. She stood before the main power distribution panel, hands hovering an inch from the surface. Not touching. Reading. The secondary CO2 scrubber has a cracked membrane, she said without looking at him. Your starboard power coupling is phase drifting 0.3%. Your fuel timing is off by 12 microseconds per cycle. You're burning 7% more fuel than you should. Cole leaned in the doorway. Anything else? Your port stabilizer vibrates because the mounting bracket has harmonic resonance. I've been meaning to fix that. It's a 20-minute fix with the right shim. Her hands still hovered, waiting for permission. What did you do before? Cole asked. The light went out of her face. I built things, she said. Then, after a long silence, other people took them. The next morning, the driftwood's air recycler sounded better than it had in years. Cole found Thessaly sitting cross-legged on the engine room floor, tools arranged in a precise half circle around her. She had patched the scrubber with salvaged materials from the cargo bay. Her hands moved with quiet certainty. This was not confidence. This was deeper, bone-level competence. The chain had hidden it. The sign had mocked it, but it had never destroyed it. Breakfast? Cole asked. They ate in silence until Thessaly set down her cup. I'm Vet Hari, she said. Cole waited. Our home system was annexed by the Karate Protectorate 11 years ago. My people were engineers, designers, systems architects. The Karate wanted our knowledge, but not us. Cole knew the Karate. Everybody in the outer systems did. A corporation that behaved like a government, or a government that behaved like a corporation. It absorbed worlds legally, efficiently, ruthlessly, and always with documents proving why exploitation was technically lawful. I worked in propulsion design, Thessaly continued. I created a resonance drive configuration that could cut civilian fuel consumption nearly in half. Smaller ships, longer range, cheaper travel. Cole looked around his old ship. That would change everything for haulers. It would have. Her voice stayed flat. They filed the patent under a Karate engineer's name. Removed me from the records. When I protested, they revoked my work authorization. When I went public, they sold my labor contract. Cole's hands tightened under the table. She told it like inventory. Mining operation. Freight company. Liquidation. Resale. Asset number V2271. By the final transfer, her file didn't even list her species correctly. She had gone from engineer to property to unsold property. My last owner chained me to that post because he couldn't sell me, she said. Vedhari are considered low-value labor in that sector. Cole kept his voice level. How long? 11 days. 11 days in twin sun heat. No food. Only whatever water she could catch. Crowds stepping around her. A sign telling the world what she had started to believe. Cole felt something cold settle inside him. The resonance drive, he said. Where is it now? 6 months ago, a Karate engineer named Dalver Cree won the Tessera Innovation Prize for it. You're not angry about the prize? I'm angry about what they did to the design. For the first time, her voice cracked. I built it to connect people. Families in outer systems. Independent traders. Refugees. They're turning it into military deployment tech. Faster strike fleets. Longer range interdiction. Before Cole could answer, an alarm screamed through the galley. He was on his feet instantly. The cockpit scanner showed a vessel closing fast. Karate Corporate Enforcement. Light Pursuit Class. Fast. Armed. Purpose-built. They found me, Thessaly whispered. Cole slid into the pilot's seat. They found us. The comm crackled. Unregistered cargo vessel. You are carrying stolen corporate property. Power down and prepare to surrender asset designation V2271. Thessaly flinched at the number. Not her name. Never her name. Cole opened the channel. Nobody on this ship answers to that designation. He cut the comm. The first warning shot rocked the driftwood hard enough to rattle ceiling panels. Cole pushed full burn. The ship groaned. The Karate vessel was faster. In open space, this ended badly. The Expanse, Thessaly said suddenly. She moved into the co-pilot chair, fear burning away beneath focus. Heading 173. 40 minutes at full burn. Charged particle interference will degrade their targeting. Their pursuit system is optimized for open space intercept, not debris navigation. Cole adjusted course without hesitation. The Expanse appeared ahead like a graveyard. Derelict hulls. Broken warships. Electromagnetic storms. Flashing blue-white through fields of wreckage. Most pilots avoided it. Cole flew straight in. The driftwood shuddered violently as charged particles raked the shields. Behind them, the Karate ship followed, firing. Shots scattered wide as interference corrupted their targeting. Roll left 15 degrees, Thessaly said. Cut thrust for 2 seconds. Cole obeyed. The driftwood slid through a gap between spinning debris with meters to spare. Behind them, the Karate ship hit a dense particle pocket, and its shields flared bright enough to light the whole field. Another blast hit the driftwood. Port shields dropped. A conduit burst somewhere aft. I need the engine room, Thessaly said. Go. 30 seconds later her voice came through internal comms. I'm rerouting auxiliary power. When I say now, cut everything. Engines. Stabilizers. All of it. In a debris field? Trust me. Cole looked at the sensor display. Then at the dark, broken ships outside. Then he cut every system when she said, now. The driftwood went dark. Silent. Drifting. Its energy signature vanished almost completely. On the scanner, Cole saw what Thessaly had done. A false echo bloomed 300 meters starboard, bouncing off the charged particles. The Karate ship locked onto the Ghost. It turned hard and flew directly into a field of wreckage. The impact crippled its forward sensor array. A weapons pod detonated. The pursuit vessel limped away. 5 minutes later, Thessaly appeared in the cockpit doorway. Hands black with coolant. White hair loose across her face. And she was smiling. Barely. But real. The first real smile Cole had seen from her. "You could have let them take me," she said quietly. "Less damage to the ship." Cole checked the console. "Ship can be fixed." They docked at a remote refueling outpost to repair the damage. For 2 days, they worked side by side. Slowly, something changed. Thessaly stopped flinching when Cole reached near her for a tool. Cole stopped moving with exaggerated caution. They found a rhythm. She handed him parts before he asked. He braced panels exactly where she needed them. The scars on her wrists didn't disappear. But when she worked, they stopped being the first thing he saw. He saw her mind. Her skill. The woman they had tried to reduce to a number. That night, they sat in the open cargo bay behind the atmospheric membrane, watching stars burn across the outer dark. "Why did you stop?" Thessaly asked. Cole was quiet for a long time. "My mother used to say the people who need help most are the ones who stopped asking for it." Thessaly looked at him. "You weren't calling out," he said. "You were just sitting there like nobody was coming anymore." "I couldn't walk past someone who had given up on being seen." Her eyes filled, but the tears didn't fall. "I had given up," she said. Then she told him the truth beneath the facts. Not just the stolen patent. Not just the labor contract. The worst part was slower. Colleagues looking away. Appeals vanishing into silence. Her name disappearing from her own work. Her mind treated like property. Her body treated like damaged inventory. "By the time I was chained to that post," she whispered, "I had started to agree with the sign." Cole said nothing. No speech could fix that. So he extended his hand, palm up. An offer. No demand. No condition. Thessaly stared at it for a long time, then placed her hand in his. Later, she fell asleep sitting against the bulkhead. Cole draped the gray thermal blanket over her shoulders. This time she didn't stare at it like a trap. In her sleep, her fingers found the edge and pulled it closer. Morning brought a distress signal. Vethari emergency frequency. 6 refugee transports under attack by 2 Carity enforcement vessels. Thessaly was in the cockpit before Cole turned around. Her face had changed. Fear was gone. Something cleaner had replaced it. Anger with direction. "Those are my people." Cole checked tactical scans. 2 enforcement ships. Open space. No debris field. "We can't fight them," he said. "Nobody would blame you if we ran." Thessaly's hands rested steady on the console. "I spent 2 years letting other people decide what I'm worth. I'm done." She opened the communications array. The original resonance drive files are in my head. Every schematic. Every proof. Every timestamp. They stole my tools and my name, but they couldn't take the work because the work is me. Cole understood. You broadcast it, the patent collapses. And the design goes where I always meant it to go. To everyone. For free. That word hung between them. Free. The word on the sign. But now it meant something different. Something chosen. Cole turned the driftwood toward the convoy. The Carity vessels detected them instantly. Weapons locked. The comm filled with threats. Cole opened a channel, not to them, to everyone. "Her name is Thessaly," he said, "and she has something to say." She pressed transmit. The data erupted across the network. Schematics. Proofs. Biometric authorship. Timestamps predating the Carity patent. Design notes written in her own words. Her mind, undeniable. Her name, restored. The Carity commander screamed over comms. "Cease transmission. This is proprietary corporate property." Thessaly didn't answer. She kept broadcasting. The driftwood shook under fire. Shields flared. Cole threw the ship into evasive maneuvers, but the 2 enforcement vessels closed in from both sides. Then the refugee convoy moved. 6 battered Vethari transports broke formation and placed themselves between the driftwood and the Carity ships. They were not warships. They were freighters. Passenger carriers. Old refugee vessels crewed by people who had lost one home and refused to lose another. Their point defenses fired together. The Carity ships hesitated. The broadcast was already spreading. Too many witnesses. Too much evidence. Too public to erase. Finally, the enforcement vessels retreated. Silence filled the channel. Then an old voice spoke. "Thessaly, is that you?" She closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were shining. "It's me." Her people invited her aboard. They offered safety. A home. Her language. Her name spoken by voices that remembered it. Cole was in the engine room when